Mm.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Miraculous Moments. And I'm really excited to be bringing you
Mm.
someone that has become a friend, someone who I met miraculously, literally in the 90s. I'm going to tell you about that in just a moment as well. Her name is Helice Bridges, and she is most commonly known now as Grandma Sparky. So I don't think I've been calling you Helice anymore. I can't get the grandma part down,
I understand.
but and she has had an amazing life and a phenomenal impact. And how I first met Sparky, she doesn't remember this. I had a radio show based out of Boca Raton, Florida in the 90s, in the latter part of the 90s.
Yeah.
And Sparky was a guest on my show.
Mm.
And I clearly remember her, first of all, because she wasn't one of my earlier guests. And so I was new at this hosting kind of thing, not to mention what she does. And Sparky in 1979 created what is now known as the Blue Ribbon Campaign. And I'll let her speak to this more specifically. But this is an acknowledgement process that she has been using since that period of time, reaching over 50 million people and growing exponentially as we speak.
Mm.
Her goal is to touch 1 billion lives. And she's probably going to do it. And she's also been blessed where she has spoken all over the world, including sharing stages with people like Vice President Al Gore, the Dalai Lama. And we could just spend a whole lot of time just sharing all her wonderful moments. So Sparky, welcome today. And I'm delighted to have you here. So Sparky and I mentioned met while I was hosting a radio show in the 90s. However, life has an interesting way of bringing people in to our lives once again. So I had recently moved from Texas to Southern California, and I was invited by a friend to go to an event. And I met a woman at this event, and we had a really nice connection. She interviewed me for some work she was doing. And then a few months later, this same woman is back in town. And I wasn't even supposed to be here. I think I came back early. I think it was during Thanksgiving holiday, if I remember. And she was saying, let's meet for sushi. And I'm staying with this woman, Helice Bridges. And I'm like, I know Helice Bridges. So that's when I re-met Sparky. We had sushi, and Sparky then introduced me, because I was saying I'm wanting to get more involved in my community. Sparky was involved with an organization, in addition to her own body of work, called CAYS, the Community Alliance for Youth Success. And that's really when I found my first group of peeps after moving here. So Miss Sparky,
Oh my gosh.
even just who you have been in my life has been rather miraculous. You helped fold me into this new area that I've now been living in for a little over 8 years.
Wow.
And got me involved with CAYS, which I love, empowering our youth. And I'm delighted that I get to have you share your story, because honestly, it's truly not only miraculous, but what has come out of a very trying time has positively impacted literally millions, rapidly approaching billions. So why don't you share, first of all, what does a miraculous moment even mean to you?
I just say that we all don't know. I don't know that every moment is a miraculous moment. But I'm 79 years young now. So 40 years ago, I was 37, 38, millionaire, home on the ocean, wife, mom to two preteen sons, and the American dream, fancy cars in the driveway, very successful career, my husband and I. The good news about this is that we were very successful. The other news is behind closed doors, my husband, who was beloved by the community as a brilliant entrepreneur and a very generous person, behind closed doors, he was abusive, not physically, but emotionally, controlling and intimidating. And for the 18 years that we were married, I every day it was crushing to come home and wait for that person to tell you I love you or hug you, and that didn't happen. And I grew up with a great family, so I was starving for recognition. And one day I decided to take my life. The spark inside of me, just everything went dark. And I can't speak for other people who are thinking about ending their life or don't want to be here, or kids. It's the second leading cause of death among young people ages 10 through 24 is suicide. And we don't know. And that day it was just, everything went dark inside, and I just went, there's no reason to be alive. And so I planned to take my life. And the miraculous moment was, I fell to my knees and I'm just sobbing on the day I figured it all out, what I was going to do to end my life. And I just screamed to the heavens, stop the world, I've got to get off and find a place where people love each other. And I heard this soft, sweet voice inside of me. I never heard such a thing. And the voice said, you can't take your life because you're going to sing, dance, write, and have a musical on Broadway in New York, and you're going to teach people how to love. And I sat up, like I popped up like popcorn, I sat from I'm going to die to what? And it was as if I didn't know higher self or angels talking to me or the universe. And in those days, I didn't have any of that connection, but I went, it just sounded like me talking to me from a much bigger place, but I couldn't have said it at that time. I just completely became like cocooned a butterfly. And I sat back up and I went, really? I'm going to sing and dance and write? I can't sing, I can't dance, I don't write. I'm a businesswoman. And that was the first miracle that happened, because since that, certainly I have produced a musical that we're writing for Broadway in New York, and I'm an author, an international, my stories are in books all over the place, and certainly I'm teaching over 50 million to 1 billion people how to love.
Yeah, I mean, what I love about this, well, there's so many things I love about this, because first of all, even in our darkest moments, there's love and support available to us. You were blessed that your soul or God or something within you spoke loud enough to shake you out of that state and say the things for you that mattered. And, since I know you personally, I've been involved to some extent with your body of work and know the impact that you have literally had. I know you've been featured in Chicken Soup for the Soul and other books, how your Blue Ribbon campaign, Who I Am Makes a Difference, really does make a difference. And by the way, Sparky wanted me to mention, she knows that her sign's backwards, but kind of like me, we're a little technologically challenged. So I just said, your audience behind you is saying Who I Am Makes a Difference. So tell everybody just very briefly about what the Blue Ribbon campaign really is.
And so I want to just give you a bridge, because I left my husband and I wound up volunteering for the San Diego Hunger Project in 1979. And I went and started to speak to kids in schools and thousands of kids about how they could end world hunger. And I created a blue ribbon that says Who I Am Makes a Difference, that you can see here, that's impacted now millions of people. But the way it happened was after I spoke, I had kids come up to me, or even teachers, And one young boy came up and said, my father is losing his job and we're losing our house and we're going to be poor and homeless and we don't know what to do. And a girl comes up and says, my mother's got cancer. And a teacher comes up and says, my son has just been put in jail for drugs. And I'm talking about ending world hunger. And I realized when I walked away from them, I needed to figure out a way to solve the problem, but I'm going through a divorce. And what came to me is that maybe people needed to be loved like me, that people were not starving for food, but for recognition, to know their lives mattered. And so the second miraculous thing happened is that I prayed on it. And what came through me was to create just a simple tool that I could go up and tell people how much I loved and respected them. And I walked up to my kids' teachers and my neighbors, and I started telling them how much I appreciated them. And I asked them if they would accept my ribbon. It says, who I am makes a difference. And when they did, I said, do I have permission to place it on you? I placed it above their heart. And then I cheered them on for their dreams with a special sound called bing. And it's a sound that makes dreams come true. And I gave them 2 extra ribbons to pay it forward. And that caught on to 35,000 people were on it in the first 3 months I started that. And it's in 12 languages now all over the world.
Oh, you know, it's true. I think most people are walking around love starved, not feeling valued, appreciated, and to do something so simple, to say you matter, your life matters, is so very critical. And we are at a very tender and pivotal time in our country and our world today. And we need it more and more and more. And so, gosh, you know, I always ask people this question, and I'm curious how you are going to answer it as well. Some of it's very obvious. How has this miraculous moment impacted your life?
Well, first of all, we have to be the change we wish to see in the world. So being oblivious to that I mattered at all because of my marriage, when I started honoring people, what came to me is that 99% of the people I honored would say, you're the first person that ever told me I mattered. Now, they could be presidents of countries, senators or generals. It doesn't make any difference. What is true is that acknowledgement. We are living in a punishment focused society where when we catch what we do wrong or what somebody else does wrong immediately, but the conversation of how to acknowledge the worth of ourselves or others is not something culturally is available until we get into a circumstance where, oh, wow, I didn't see that I'm using a language that's putting myself down or bullying, intimidating, whatever. And we need that bridge.
Yes.
And as the founder of Blue Ribbons Worldwide, our nonprofit organization, its purpose is uplifting and uniting humanity through the power of love, so that our purpose is the foundational essence of who I learn how to be. The ribbon has become my compass, a due north toward seeing the beauty in every person in every moment.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting too, because I've spoken at youth leadership conferences and at schools, and we do talk about bullying. And what I share with them is people that we call bullies, whether they're little guys or big ones, these are people whose hearts have been stomped on.
Yes.
And this is the only way so far that they have learned how to cope. And it's not productive. And when we look to see how much frustration and hate and anger is being expressed today, we need to be aware that these people's, what I refer to as your love wells, are really low. But we can do it through the Blue Ribbon campaign. And if I can just add, even in
Yes,
my
please.
world, you can just send out love and it will fill people up just with that intention.
Yes, I'm going to speak to what you said. Okay. You and I know this work. In 1991, I did one of my first all-school assemblies where I said 2 out of every 3 of you has been abused in this room and I know it. So if it's not you, it's somebody on both sides. In a moment, I'm going to invite you to come up to the front of the microphone, state your name, what you did, who you hurt, if you bullied, harmed anybody, I want you to tell it and apologize and have that person come up, shake a hand, give a hug, clean it up. If you've been harmed at all, come up and just say how it feels. And 200 kids lined up. This is covered by the LA Times front page, by the way. Kids had raised $3,200 in 1991 for me to do 6th, 7th, and 8th grade assemblies 3 days in a row. But I'm going to give you a peek into one of them because this is big stuff. And what you're talking about is hurt people. But we don't get a chance to just apologize or just say what's feeling because we're stuffed inside and so hurting all the time for most of us. I'll include myself. And this is a great gift right now that's happening right now to create blue ribbon cities around the world. And I'm teaching youth and adult leaders together, and it's an intergenerational training called Standing Strong Together, a community building leadership training, teaching humanity how to love. And all of our graduates have to be, they have to be nominated and vetted because they're going to be they're leaders of leaders, youth and adults. But I'm going to give you a little tiny story that's powerful, and it's going to be in major movies and so forth now. But in 1991, one of the people that was in the room was 13 years old at the time. She was in that lineup. She got up and said, I broke my pelvis and I was in a wheelchair and all the kids were laughing at me, and she just poured her heart out. 4 years ago, I met her because I was doing a podcast like this, and Marcy Morrison, who you know, was doing it, and a colleague of ours, and she said, hold up the blue ribbon and honor everybody listening. I did. And Amanda Marie Masters, she said, I don't know what's happening, but I'm crying. That ribbon, something's happening to me. And Marcy says, well, Sparky lives close to you. Go and hang out with her. And we're sitting, and we're talking like girlfriends. And she said, I told her about this assembly, and she said, wait a second. In 1991, were you at Degania Junior High School? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm going through my archives. You mean this article in the LA Times? And she said, I was in that line. I got up and I told everybody how much I was broken because everybody was laughing at me because I had been in a wheelchair. And she said, I didn't want to go to school. And then you gave me that ribbon. I didn't remember you, but I remembered the ribbon. And when I walked out of the assembly that day, kids poured into me, hugged me, and said they were sorry. And I made a decision on that day that I was going to do something to make the world better. Today, Amanda Marie Masters is the founder and co-owner of Wake TV Network. It's in 170 countries. Her daughter, Hannah, all of her kids have been in our trainings. They're all ambassadors. Hannah, who's now 18 years old, is the leader of the first blue ribbon city in the world. It's Carlsbad. 50,000 people will be honored, and we just launched that. And here is this generational thing that happened in 1991 that we all don't know. When we touch lives, we're touching generations. And we're pouring, like you said, when you say something to somebody and you tell them how much they matter, you pour into And they will remember it for a lifetime. If you add a blue ribbon to it, it's like, I say it's like McDonald's. You know, every time you go there, you know what hamburger that's going to be, or In-N-Out or whatever it is. When you see a blue ribbon, you know that you got it from somebody, told you how much you matter, like that. And I just say one more thing about this. Mary Kay from Mary Kay Cosmetics. I met her years ago. She's an acknowledgement queen. She's no longer with us, but she said, in your whole lifetime, people might receive one applause. And it's usually at the end when you graduate high school. Today, they say, hold your applause till the end, till everybody gets a diploma. So she said, people don't receive and know that they matter and make a difference in that. And so we're pouring in, you and I, and Community Alliance for Youth Success Ks and other organizations like ours are pouring into all of us, because we all need, you know, to know that we every moment to get somebody calls up and says, thank you for what you taught, or thank you for the ribbon. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really incredible. Well, first of all, thank you for taking your time to share the gift of you with the people that are listening in today. Thank you for being who you are, because you certainly have made an impact on my own life. And, you know, and how, I mean, you guys need to know, this woman is an acknowledgement queen. If you get in her space, she will find something to acknowledge you immediately. So it's really, it's great. and she lives and breathes this. And she's Sparky, you're a wonderful example of what's possible. And that's why I'm inviting people such as yourself to be a part of these miraculous moments, because anything is really possible. And this is my little way of pulling us all together and hopefully inspiring people, because I too say, you know, your life matters, period.
That's it.
And that's our job. So there was a time not too long ago, well, it's actually been a few years ago, that I received a message from my interpretation from God saying, I need all my soldiers up and running. We're at a very tender time. So everyone, if this speaks to you, please reach out to Sparky. Sparky, let people know how they can find you, more information about the Blue Ribbon campaign.
Sure. So first of all, go to Blue Ribbons, BLUERIBBONS.org. And you could listen to our Blue Ribbon movie and find out how a 14-year-old boy did not commit suicide because of his father honoring him. It's a very famous story. And then contact me directly at Sparky, SPARKY, at Blue Ribbons, BLUERIBBONS.org, and just say in the subject line, miraculous moments with Wendy, and I'll follow up. Absolutely. I love it.
Well, thank you. I love you. I can't wait to see you in person again one of these days. And thank you all for being a part of another miraculous moment.